And as part of my segment, I also like to just give you a little sense of the process in terms of how did I find my idea using any of the askSlim tools and services. So you should see the Charts Hub up on my screen. And this is an excellent tool. So if you're a level 2 or higher member, you have the opportunity to quickly and efficiently go through our weekly and daily cycle analysis and all of the symbols that are in our focus list, which is just an awesome assortment and variety of stocks, ETFs, and futures markets. And you can see here as I just scroll through, we have just an awesome assortment. And you simply click on one of the symbols and then it pulls up, defaults to the weekly chart. And then you can also look at the daily chart. And as I was going through the symbols, the one that caught my attention was FCX. So I am going to pull that over and we're going to step through the trading, the analysis and trading plan on FCX. I'm going to pull up my little sticky notes here too. So when it comes to trade planning, you want your analysis and your methodology to be able to answer some key core trade planning questions. And Arvi does this many times a week in our trade ideas service that we offer, where he will go through the analysis as we're doing right now, at times creates a video around that analysis as well, and then has a template where he fills out a very specific set of information regarding the trading plan. And that consists of our outlook period. So each one of us analysts today talked about our outlook period. So for me, as I look at FCX, I'm looking at an intermediate or slightly longer term outlook. So that would mean something like 3 to 8 weeks or even a couple months out. Once we identified our outlook period, you really want to match that up to the analysis that you're doing on your charts. So in this case, we're looking at weekly and daily charts, and I'll even go into the 2-hour to show some information around that. What is my directional bias? Obviously, if you're going to position your trade, you need to understand what your directional bias is as you do your planning. And my directional bias on FCX is bullish, and I'm going to step through that here in just a second. And then we want to identify our key levels, including, as you saw with Slim and Arvi, what's our reevaluation levels? What are those areas that tell us that analysis is something's changing and we either need to take some off or remove that position altogether? And then once you have done your analysis, it's really important to then say to yourself, do I have a tradable edge? Is the information allow me to put and execute a strategy around it? And then once you've done that, you want to be able to pinpoint what signals you need to say that that trade is a go and it's time to execute it. And obviously, always want to have our risk and money management rules in place. Okay, so there's the high level. Now let's get into the details. I'm going to pull over my other sticky note here. So why the bullish directional bias? As Slim and Arvi are talking about, we look at a sum of the evidence where we want to have our methodology put the odds of our trade setup in our favor. There are no certainties, there are only odds, and over a sample size, if you have a methodology that generates edges, you should ultimately become profitable, especially if your winning trades are larger than your losing trades. So as we look at the weekly chart, which I have up here right now, we have a intermediate cycle structure that now is warning positive. So we had a cycle low here, and when we made that next cycle low, we actually violated it slightly. So that would have been negative as we started this cycle for that intermediate. However, over the last several weeks in this new rising phase, it's been quite a significant advance that has actually now made 2 weeks in a row above that intermediate 78.6, which for us warns that this cycle structure now is shifting positive. So that's number one. Number two is our momentum indicator is firmly positive as well. So we have both cycle structure and we have momentum positive. And then also, if we expand out here a little bit, which I'll do in just a second, you'll see that the longer term patterns are also holding quite positively. So in addition to that, we look at time, right? Our cycle analysis gives us a sense of time. And right now we're still in that rising and really, if at all, just getting into some early peaking, but essentially still in an early rising a phase here, which suggests that if we have a positive cycle structure, that our translation for this pattern is likely to be positive, at least at the midpoint, if not a right-hand translation, which would then suggest that peak comes comes later. So now if I back out here and just look at the zoom, if I zoom out here, you can see that this overall major pattern is still quite positive, potentially even putting in a bull flag here. So again, overall, the pattern structures, the momentum, very positive. So once we've identified that, we want to get into our levels, and we use a swing high, swing low techniques. And as I did my swing high, swing low techniques, I was able to identify some key areas where based on the patterns, we would likely see if this is to play out bullishly. So I've identified that here, an intermediate projection zone over the next several weeks of around 44.40 to 46.75. You can see that also is going to come back to retest that prior cycle high. And then what you would likely see is obviously some type of pullback. Now, what I'm showing here is a pullback that would be into the typical maybe 38.2 to 50% from that minor peak that would form. And that would come in the time frame. If I go over then to the daily chart, you'll see here that the daily cycle low is expected somewhere around 125-ish. So around that time frame, there would be a likely pullback, and then we would likely rally again. And the possibility is we either retest or we actually make another new cycle peak up to this longer term 78.6 extension. Now, what would invalidate this analysis or require you to reevaluate for sure, take some off, maybe even remove the position at this time? And this would change as the security continues to move up. But right now, if there was a close below this 36.74 area, then I would have to reevaluate this position or this trade idea altogether. So that is the work. Oh, one more thing to point out. On the daily chart, you can see that there was a daily cycle breakout. So that, as Slim and Arby talked about, that some of the evidence is really what you want to look at to get your directional bias. That then helps you position that trade properly, putting the odds in your favor so that you can be on the right side for a longer ride is what we look for.